Hi, everyone, and I want to formally welcome you to today's webinar, How a Credential Evaluation Can Boost Your Job Prospects. My name is Riley Cohen. I'm the CEO of CanadaVisa. Our mission here is to empower newcomers throughout their journey to Canada by providing access to trustworthy, reliable, and digestible information, advice, and services to newcomers throughout their journey to Canada. We operate CIC News, which a lot of you may know, the CanadaVisa Forum, and we recently launched CanadaVisa Plus, an innovative platform that helps evaluate eligibility for Canadian immigration. We're going to start this webinar today with a presentation by our guest speakers from WES. After the presentation, we'll have a question and answer period, giving you the opportunity to interact with our guests and panelists. We received the questions you submitted prior to the webinar and have planned to answer as many as possible, but we encourage you to continue to ask questions in the chat throughout the presentation, and our team of moderators will queue them up for the Q&A period. I'm now happy to introduce our three guest speakers, Abhinav Jana, Celine Johnson from WES, thanks for joining, and Derek Shank from CIC News and CanadaVisa. So Abhinav is a digital marketing head with WES. So known as AJ, has been an integral part of WES's digital marketing team for the past 5 years, contributing to strategies that enhance the organization's global impact in credential evaluation and international education. As a former WES customer who received his credential evaluation for IRCC, AJ brings a unique perspective to his role, combining personal experience with professional expertise. He holds a master's degree in management technology from New York University and a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Maharshi Dayanand University in India. Thanks for joining us, AJ. Appreciate it. Celine Johnson is a talent acquisition leader known for driving high-impact teams with nonprofit and social impact organizations. With a strong strategic focus and extensive experience building and expanding employer branding strategies, she effectively connects talent with opportunities, driving results that matter. Celine excels in crafting purposeful, people-centered talent strategies and is committed to mentoring future recruiting leaders. Thanks for joining us. Derek is a senior manager of content and product at CanadaVisa Media. Insatiably curious, he has built his career around uncovering and communicating insights that have a positive impact on people and on organizations, from personal finance to IT, research to immigration knowledge. Having built high-performing teams as hiring a manager since 2020, Derek joined CanadaVisa for the opportunity to help grow an ambitious organization with the mission of communicating life-changing insights to newcomers to Canada. He holds a bachelor's degree in classical studies and English literature from the University of Waterloo and a master's and PhD in English from the University of Western Ontario. Thanks for joining us, Derek. And once again, thank you to all our guest speakers today. We really appreciate your time. We're going to have ample time at the end of the webinar as a reminder for our questions. So please stick around, and any questions that pop in your head, just put them in the chat and we'll try to get to them at the end. But please remember, the chat is public. Do not share any personal information, such as your phone number, your email, or your WES reference number. These messages will be removed from the chat immediately. Note that the presentation slides and a recording of this webinar will also be shared with you in an email afterwards. So that closes off the introduction. I'm going to hand it off to our first guest speaker, AJ, and we'll start with the presentation. So here we go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Riley, for that wonderful introduction and for having us here today. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm going to quickly, actually, Riley did a great job speaking about my introduction, but I just want to quickly touch upon, I'm originally from India. I did my mechanical engineering and I wanted to study and build a career abroad. So I did move to Dubai, where I worked in oil and gas industry. And while that experience did teach me a lot of things, I eventually realized that I wanted to pivot more towards technology and marketing analytics. And I decided to prepare for GRE that many of you might have experienced, and then I applied to a lot of graduate programs in US. I was fortunate enough to be accepted into NYU, where I pursued my master's in technology management, focusing in digital analytics. The program helped me sort of transform my career path and, during the application process, I didn't encounter that there are so much of documentation that goes into place while applying and moving to a different country. One of the document was credential evaluation. So that's the first time when I came across WES and I understood what's the importance of getting a credential evaluation. Later, when I was in US, I also did apply to my Canadian residency where I required an ECA for IRCC, which many of you must have experienced or heard about. And fast forward to today, I'm head of digital marketing at WES, and I completely enjoy the work that I'm doing here to help ensure that students and professionals around the world have access to the tools and resources they need to succeed while moving to a different country. I think we already introduced the panelists. You will have, once we're done with the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session with them. So we'll deep dive into various questions regarding helpful tips about job search in Canada. So a little bit about WES. So World Education Services is a nonprofit social enterprise that supports the education, economic, and social inclusion of immigrants, refugee, and international students. So last year, we celebrated our 50th anniversary, and we have been working as a nonprofit organization to support immigrants who move to US and Canada, but we're also expanding in other countries as well. The idea is that you should be able to use your education skills and experience to work anywhere in the world. One of the things that supports this is a credential evaluation report. So what is a credential evaluation report? So for example, as I was speaking earlier, that I have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from India. So when I was moving to US, a lot of US institutions require something called as credential evaluation, which is standardizing your home country education to US or Canadian standards, depending on where you're moving. The reason they require that is in certain cases, 3 years of bachelor's degree in India could be 4 years of bachelor's degree in US or in Canada. So basically that helps them understand your home country education and also gives them the clarity of what your education is standardized to Canadian standards. Where can you use your credential evaluation report? So a credential evaluation report, you can use it for education, employment, immigration, licensing. And I'm pretty sure you must have come across while moving to Canada for IRCC, you might have required a credential evaluation, and you must have heard about WES evaluation for that matter. So speaking of which, we have essentially two different types of credential evaluation. One is D by D, and the other one is C by C. So D by D is document by document. It is a basic degree equivalency that provides the authentication as well as the credential information and equivalency. And as C by C, it includes the D by D aspect of it and some extra sort of like additional course and credit breakdown. We usually recommend going with something called ICAP, which is International Credential Advantage package. This means that we will store your verified transcript in addition to your evaluation report for easy sending later to other institutions, or if you decide to pursue further education, or if you are applying to a job where they require you to share a credential evaluation. In addition to that, we also give a digital badge, which you can display on your social media, on your resume, which helps the recruiter or the person evaluating your resume understand in depth of what your education is standardized to Canadian standards. WES is also designated by IRCC, that is Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada, to provide ECA where as a part of your document process when applying for express entry program. So overall, once, let's say you have an ECA, you can always come back to WES and change your ECA to C by C or D by D, depending on where you're applying. Always remember to check with the licensing body or the institution or the employer to verify what kind of report you might require. And that will help you identify which is best for you. The WES process, credential evaluation process, is broken down into 5 steps. And I want to highlight and emphasize that the first 2 steps are very critical that is basically done by the applicant. So that is basically done by you. You go to our website. You start an application. We ask some of very personal information about like date of birth, school that you studied in, where you're planning to apply, and so on and so forth. Once you submit the application, that's where the real process starts, which is making sure that we receive all your documents. In most cases, we have digital partnership with a lot of institutions globally. So where you can reach out to your university, like for my case, I would reach out to Maharishi Dayanand University in India, and I can request them to send my documents digitally to WES, since WES has digital partnership with them. So once you submit your application, you will receive a clear instructions based on your sending university or the university that you have your bachelor's from, how they can send us the document or how you can help send the document from them to WES. Once we receive your document, we thoroughly review your document. We do a verification, which is like we verify that, okay, this document is valid, this individual has received this degree from this institution, and then we move forward to the next step, which is doing an evaluation where we say, okay, your 4 years bachelor's degree is equivalent to 4 years bachelor's degree in US or in Canada. So this is the most important part where you have to pay a lot of attention, is how to make sure that WES receives all your documents and all your documents are reviewed and verified. You can log into my account to check your status, where you are in the process, and that should give you like a full information on how your application is ongoing right now with WES. So how can you use your report for job search? So beyond being requirement for certain jobs, so there might be certain times when you're applying to some jobs in Canada and they might be like, hey, could you also share your WES report? Or sometimes they might not even require it. But it helps sort of strengthen your application in a way and helps you stand out against others who are applying for the same role by giving the opportunity to the recruiter to understand your education background, which is also important and part of like, the overall process of hiring someone. It gives you confidence when you're in an interview, brings your evaluation. You can highlight that, yes, I have an international education. So for my case, I'm a mechanical engineer from India. And, I also have a WES report, which kind of validates that my 4 years of bachelor's degree in India is 4 years of bachelor's degree in Canada. And finally, it can support your sort of like when you're negotiating salary based on like, you can look into what, different aspects of salary are for an individual with the same sort of experience, education in Canada. But at the same point of time, it's not a requirement. And I highly want to emphasize on the fact that always check with the employer, with the institution or the licensing body before you get a WES report or before you decide what report might be helpful to apply for the specific role or position that you're applying for. So as I mentioned earlier, our 50 years of experience have helped millions of individuals sort of learn, work, and thrive in new places. We work with thousands of universities, institutions, licensing boards, and employers who trust and accept our evaluation report. Our staff can speak over 60 languages and have the expertise to sort of evaluate credentials from pretty much all around the world. So that gives us the strength to help you sort of have an impact in terms of how you can use your home country education when you move to Canada and apply for jobs or even decide for pursuing higher education. With that, we're going to move to the Q&A session round, and I'm going to hand it over back to Riley, and looking forward to answering some of the questions you guys have.
I was on mute. Great. First off, thank you so much, AJ, for the presentation. I know I found it insightful. I'm sure that the audience did as well. So before we start the Q&A period, I want to remind everyone that this webinar is being recorded. And so if there's any section of AJ's presentation that you want to go through in more detail, look out for an email tomorrow in your inbox. They'll have a recorded version of the webinar and also some slides. As we move to the question and answer period, I also want to remind everyone, please do not share any personal information in the chat. No emails, no phone numbers, no WES reference number either. Great. With that being said, I'll formally move to our question and answer period. The first question is for AJ, and this question was asked prior to the webinar by Precious. Precious asks, I did my academic qualification evaluation with WES for the USA. Can I use the same evaluation in Canada, or do I need to redo it?
Thank you for that question. So as I mentioned before, actually, I did get my WES evaluation for US, and then I had to apply for Canada when I was applying for IRCC. So WES evaluation are country specific. If you had your credential evaluated for US, you will need to request a separate evaluation for Canada. However, depending on what kind of evaluation you have for US, we may be able to reuse some of your documents that you have sent us previously if there's no change in your education that you evaluated with WES when you were in the US. In certain cases, if you came to US and you pursued, let's say, a master's degree, you might have to then resubmit your master's degree to be evaluated if you're planning to use your highest level of education to apply to Canada. So in both cases, it would depend. But if you have submitted your bachelor's with us and we have the document, we can always reuse it to support your application. All you have to do is reach out to our customer service and send them your previous WES number so they can basically give you a better picture of if we can use your previous document or not.
Great, thanks. Solomon asked before the webinar, my work experience is different from my degree. Which of the two should I focus on when searching for a job? And I guess I'll pass the one to Shalene.
Yeah. Solomon, I think your work experience is often thought of as like the most powerful tool in your job search, especially if it's recent and it directly relates to the role that you're targeting. So unless you're targeting entry-level roles, employers really are interested in what you've actually done and the results you achieved. So even if in the past your job doesn't directly transfer to what you're targeting, I think it's important to show those transferable skills. So make sure you highlight those skills and how it relates to the opportunity you're pursuing, and make sure that emphasize that throughout the whole process. So you can do this by tailoring your resume specific for the roles that you're looking to target, and make sure to attach a cover letter just stating your interest in how those skills transfer over.
Great. Thank you, Shalene. Derek, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I'll provide maybe a bit of a different take. So I agree with everything Shalene said. At the same time, it's really up to you what kind of job you want to focus on for your career. So you might not necessarily want to work in the same role as what your previous work experience is. You might want to change fields or change roles, and that's absolutely fine. You just need to make sure that you demonstrate to the employer and to the hiring manager that you are qualified for that role. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be limited to your education or your work experience. You can talk about things from hobbies. You can talk about things from your personal life. Like as a hiring manager, all I really care about is, what can you do for me as a candidate and what distinguishes you from the other candidates. So I would say, think about what kind of job you want, what kind of role you want, and then think about how do I put my best foot forward for that particular role, drawing on all of my life experience.
Great. Thanks, Derek. We got a interesting ECA question asked in chat. Andrew asked, is sending in of documents done by institutions, or do I send the documents through my signed up profile?
That's a great question. So when you submit your application, you get very clear instructions from us on what kind of documents can you upload in the profile and what documents we would require for your institution to send us. In certain cases, you will also find a direct link going to your institution from where you can request your institution to send us document if we have a digital partnership with them. In case we do not have a digital partnership with them, you can do two things. First, you can either request your university to fill up a form to become a digital partners with us, or the second, you have to physically go to your institution and request them to send us documents. I definitely want to highlight, in most cases, if we have engaged with your institution previously, we would potentially have some sort of digital partnership with them, which will be pretty much easier for you to send your documents to us. So I would say always look at the request or look at the list that we send after you submit your application, and then follow the steps to be able to do that.
Great. Thanks so much. We got a question here prior to the webinar from Yusuf. Is it useful to include WES credential evaluation in a resume in order to boost my chances while applying for jobs? I'll pass that one to Shalene.
Thanks. So in general, I think it could be useful to include your credential evaluations on your resume, especially if you're applying to roles in industries such as healthcare or education that really want to see this, right? This may require, like these sort of roles or these industries may require credential evaluations for international applicants to ensure that you meet the minimum educational standards for that position. So including it on your resume really is a smart way to help eliminate any sort of ambiguity when it comes to that degree, and recruiters are able to see that, you know, you got this credential, your credentials evaluated, and you meet that requirements that's attached to the job requirements.
Great, thanks so much. We got a lot of questions here about, I guess, specific disciplines and credential evaluations. And maybe AJ, you can kind of hit those all with one shot. We had somebody ask about whether the process is the same for medical doctors to get their credentials evaluated. And I see a question here in the Q&A about transitioning to the trucking industry and whether credentials from WES could help with that. Maybe you can shed some light on what the process would be for specific disciplines like that.
Sure, absolutely. So it depends. If you are doing a credential evaluation for immigration focused, I'm going to drop in a link here, which is very specific to physicians, pharmacists, and architects. So I would always recommend you to first visit and check the IRCC Canada website for more information on what kind of credential evaluation or what kind of ECA report they require. WES does evaluate most education degrees that you have received from outside of Canada, but we do not evaluate certificates. I think there was a question about that. The other thing is that if you are, let's say, I think the question was if you're moving to a different industry, in trucking industry, there might be certain cases that the WES report might help the company to understand your education background if that's a requirement. So I'm going to highlight the fact again that it's always important to check with the recipient or with the employer, with the institution, wherever you're applying, to see if they require a WES report or not. But on the other hand, if you already have a WES report, there is no harm in mentioning what your education credential is equivalent to when you're applying to any role in Canada. So it goes both ways, but I would again highlight, depending on the scenario and the situation, you have to do your research and sort of understand if it would add value to your report or not. I'm going to share another link here, which is very specific to ECA. And if you look at the page here, it will give you more information on different aspects where you can use your ECA for. There is agri-food immigration pilot program where you can use it for. You can use for PNP programs. So take a look at those information that might be helpful for any other questions related to ECA.
Great, thanks so much, AJ. We've got a question here about resumes, and somebody asked, is there a standard resume format I should use for Canadian job applications? I'll ask Derek what his opinion on this is.
Yeah, so the short answer is no, there is no standard resume format. There's some more things to keep in mind in terms of tips you can follow. The first is generally don't include a headshot in your resume in North America. This is common in some countries, like in Europe, for instance. I know that it's common to include a headshot. Not appropriate in North America because it's considered to be like employers always want to avoid discrimination. So don't include a headshot on your resume. Make the information in the resume relevant to the position you're applying for. So going back to what like Shalene was saying earlier, tailor it to the job posting that you're looking for. The other thing to keep in mind for your resume as well is to ensure that it's machine readable by applicant tracking systems. If your employer is using like an applicant tracking system, they're going to machine read your resume, and you can. There's certain tips that you can do for that, but and you can purchase templates online and stuff. But essentially, those are the things to keep in mind: is no headshot, tailor it to the position, and then try to make sure that it's machine readable as well.
Great, thanks, Derek. Shalene, anything to add there?
I agree with everything that Derek said. I think some other things that I would add is opportunities that I see candidates don't always jump on is to showcase their achievements and quantify it. So using numbers, percentage, dollar figures, it really demonstrate the impact that you made in the work that you did. So for example, I might see something like responsible for sales, but to really make that more powerful, how about you include like increased sales by 15%? I just want to add that. And I think one more thing before we move to the next question is recruiters like myself really like to see resumes that use reverse chronological format. So when you're listing your work experience and your education, start with the most recent position and degree and then work backwards.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
For AJ, Ayomide asked before the webinar, how do I position WES for work abroad? And which WES report is best if I consider work opportunities for relocation as well as study later?
Awesome. So as we were talking about different types of reports, so we have document by document, we have course by course. In most cases, when you're applying for jobs, document by document would be very useful. And if you go with the WES ICAP for document by document, we will keep your transcripts with us, we'll keep your evaluation with us. You can always come back and let's say you're applying to multiple roles and multiple organizations and they require you to send WES report, we will be able to send them duplicate reports if required. So I would recommend going with WES ICAP. But if you are confused, it's always better to go with D by D because you can always come back and upgrade it to C by C if there is a specific requirement for, let's say, a very specific role where they're like, we want you to provide us course by course report, and you can come back and sort of request for a course by course evaluation.
Great, thanks, AJ. And just a quick follow-up. I saw somebody ask in chat. I thought this would be an easy question to answer. How long do WES credentials last for once you get the evaluation done?
So an ECA, which is required for IRCC, they're only valid for 5 years, as we have that contract with IRCC, the Canadian government. But if you get a D by D or C by C standard WES application, they're valid for lifetime.
Great, awesome, thanks.
Thank you.
We've got a question here. What key qualities make an international candidate stand out in the hiring process? Derek, I'm curious to hear what you think about this.
Yeah, so I personally, as a hiring manager, I don't assess international candidates any differently than I do domestic candidates. So in all cases, I'm just looking for the best candidate for the role. What can the candidate do for me, and what differentiates them from the other candidates. That said, I think there are some pitfalls that international candidates could potentially face, primarily due to general cultural differences and or work cultural differences, also potentially language barriers for some candidates. So my main recommendation is, put your best foot forward in some of the ways that we talked about. On top of that, I would make an effort to brush up on, Canadian work culture and etiquette, interview etiquette, and then work on your language skills if appropriate.
Thanks, Derek. Shalene?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think for all candidates, what's important is that you demonstrate the core competencies and like a strong fit for that role. And for international candidates, some things that might help them stand out is their global perspectives, right? Having lived, studied, or worked in different countries, like that unique lens that they bring to that table. So how do you show that in your application that you're able to really understand like challenges through a different lens and understand global trends?
Great, thanks. AJ, I was wondering if maybe you had a take on this as well.
No, for sure. Completely agree with everything mentioned by Derek and Shalene here. One thing that helped me stand out is a diverse work experience. So, if I'm applying for a marketing role, sometimes we get very much interested in speaking about all our marketing experiences. But if you speak about the other experiences that you have, that might help understand the hiring manager of the diversity in your management skills and handling different work environment. That highlights like how would you function in a specific setup. So I always love to highlight my construction experience that I had in Dubai, my IT experience I had in India, and then also talk about some marketing experience that I have worked in during my internship at NYU. So I feel like the diversity helps sort of highlight what you're bringing to the table compared to someone who has worked, let's say, their entire life in marketing. So I would emphasize on the fact highlighting your diversity in work experience and working in different countries is essential for this.
Thanks, Adrian. Somebody asked, what tips can you offer international applicants to make their resume stand out? And Shalene, if you can give your take on this.
Yeah, and I think I kind of answered this question a little bit earlier, but I think really tailoring your resume for each job that you're applying to, right? Making sure those competencies and those requirements that are on the job posting, it's there within your resume, making sure that you add a strong cover letter to really, give the hiring manager and the recruiter some insights into your background and why you're really interested in this role and why you would be a strong fit for the role.
Great, thanks. And Derek, any opinion on this?
I would say that the number one thing is to connect it's similar to what Shalene said, right? Like connect what you have to offer to what the hiring manager is looking for, which ought to be pretty clear from the job posting if the job posting is well written. If possible, if you have an inside contact in the organization that you're applying to, which is always ideal, try to get information from them on some of the key things for success. A lot of times job descriptions might be overwritten. Like they're going to ask for like 20 things, but the hiring manager cares most about 3 of them. So if you can, back channel and figure out what those are, then that'll give you a better shot as well. There was another thing, but I lost it. So I'll just say, like, make sure that you draw that connection between what you have to offer and the position itself.
Great, thanks, Derek. Karishma asked a question about their specific circumstances and whether or not they'd be eligible for PR and whether studying would increase their chances of PR. We can't answer any specific immigration questions here, but Karishma, if you go to CanadaVisa Plus, all one word.com, and log in, you'll be able to create a profile there and for free see how different degrees or different circumstances in your life may affect your PR options in the future. Totally free to sign up. You can add degrees and it'll rerun your assessment for a Canadian permanent residence. So I'd give that I would check that out if you have questions about your specific immigration circumstances. Otherwise, we can't answer those questions here. That's CanadaVisaPlus.com. Great. We had a question here, which is unsurprising about AI.
Right. Sorry, I just remember. Can I go back to the resume question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention is there isn't like a perfect resume, even for like a specific job posting or a job position. So don't think about it as like, I just need to get this right in this one form, because hiring managers are people, they're unique individuals. So like one hiring manager might really like a certain resume and another hiring manager might really hate it. So to think that there's like a right way to do it is not necessarily the case. One resume is not going to apply to every single hiring manager. So the more you can find out about what that particular hiring manager is looking for, the more that you can give yourself an advantage. But I mean, you might have a resume, you could show it to like 20 hiring managers and 7 might love it and 13 might hate it, right? So similar to, dating, there has to be a fit between you and the position and the hiring manager. And it's not just going to be a, check the box kind of thing. People have different perspectives and are looking for different things. So keep that in mind.
Great. Thanks, Derek. Question here about AI, which is unsurprising given how popular that's become today. The question was, how is AI influencing the hiring process and what AI related skills are becoming essential for today's job seekers, including international students? And I'll pass it off to Shalene. I'm curious to see what you think about this.
Yeah, AI is here, everyone, and it's quickly transforming the hiring process, from how organizations find candidates to how candidates even apply for jobs, right? So, my advice for all job seekers, not just international job seekers looking to find working candidates, to really just understand this shift, and adapting really is essential. So you'll find that AI is being integrated into nearly every stage of the recruitment life cycle to really make that process faster, more efficient, and ideally more fair. It's not really about not it's not just knowing about how to like use AI, but for me, I think it's more about understanding the implications and developing skills that complement AI's capabilities. So you should look to be AI savvy and be able to really leverage AI tools efficiently, not necessarily become AI developers, unless that's a path you're really looking to take on in your career. But the aim really should be to be intelligent users of AI who understand their limitations and then develop those human skills that AI can't replicate. So AI doesn't take your jobs.
Thanks, Shalene. And Derek, any quick comments about this?
I agree with most of what Shalene said. I guess the one thing that I would have to add is I just forgot. I'll let you know to come back to me if I think about the other thing.
Great, thanks, Derek. A couple questions here, AJ, around how long it usually takes to get a WES credential evaluation.
Sure, awesome. So it depends on applicant to applicant, depending on how quickly we are able to receive your documents and how quickly we are able to verify your documents. I'm going to add a link here, which will give you a little bit of an idea depending on what you're applying for. So if you're applying for D by D, you can select that in the report type, and it will give you the estimate amount of time that we require. But typically, when we have received all your documents, it takes us around 2 weeks to validate and verify your documents, and then another 2 weeks to complete your evaluation report. So, but again, I want to emphasize on the fact that this will depend completely on application to application and how quickly you are able to share your documents with us, and then we are able to validate that.
Great, thanks. And a question here about universities that are supported or not supported. Is there somewhere candidates can go look to see if their university is supported, or how should they approach that?
So the best way to do it is to reaching out to the university directly, or speaking with current students if you are part of any those chat groups or where students help each other. I think that's the best way to do it. When I was applying for Canadian immigration, I was part of a lot of different chat groups. You can find those on Facebook, and I did ask the same question: do I need a WES report? And majority of the cases, these are very helpful. But at the end of the day, it's 100% advisable to directly reach out to the university counselor, admission office, and ask them the question, do I need a WES report, or will that support my application? And that will be the best way to go about it.
Great, thanks. And another ECA-related question here from Curtis, and I saw some other people answer this in the ask this in the chat as well. For persons with multiple degrees, can they be done all at once, or do I have to submit multiple submissions on your platform? How does it work, and how does the pricing work?
The short answer is yes. And pricing will depend, but my advice would be to go through the application process, and when you submit different. So when I did my credential evaluation, I did both my bachelor's degree and master's degree, but it has changed. The policies have changed. In certain cases, Canada might only require your higher education if you're applying for ECA. So again, do your research, go to the IRCC website, make sure you understand the requirements. If you're applying for, let's say, to an institution, academic institution for higher education, and they're mentioning clearly that they would require you to submit all your previous degrees that you have received, you can apply for all your degrees at once. You can apply them separately. It will depend on case by case. So again, the best thing to do is reach out to the employer, reach out to the institution, get a clear idea and instruction on what they expect you to send as a WES report. But short answer is yes, you can get all your degrees evaluated in one evaluation report.
Great. Thanks, AJ. Interesting question here from Ernie. I'm curious to get Shalene and Derek's opinion or take on this. But Ernie says that they have experience in sales and marketing and as an account executive. And the question is, how should I look for job postings that match my experience and education? Which job postings should I apply to? And I'm curious, Shalene, to know your opinion on that. How should someone go about looking for jobs?
Yeah, there are a number of job boards out there. So I think just doing some research to see where some niche boards in that space that you're looking for. The easiest one to start with, quite honestly, is LinkedIn and Indeed, and start from there to see what sort of opportunities are out there, as well as doing some more in-depth research to see where some jobs within that space that you can find. Derek, anything else to add?
Yeah, I would add, don't necessarily think about don't limit yourself based on what your experience and your education happen to be. If you're happy in those fields and that's what you want to go and look for, go and get that. But I wouldn't necessarily limit yourself to that. Think about the types of roles that you want and the value that you bring, and then look for jobs that match that. Because aside from certain professional fields, like obviously medicine, law, nursing, engineering, like those are all professional fields where you have a education background, work experience. It's very linear. But a lot of other white collar jobs, or like the tier 1 knock jobs, you could have essentially any type of degree doing them. So think about what you want to do, and you can kill two birds with one stone if you do informational interviews with professionals to learn about their roles and their experience. And then those people can then refer you to potentially to hiring managers or to recruiters from their organization. So you can do your networking research to learn about job opportunities and figure out what's good for you, while also building your network of contacts that will help you to be in the right place in the right time when a position opens up for you that you're suited for, which segues into my next point, which is don't limit yourself to job postings. Don't just focus on job postings, because there's going to be far too many postings in terms of what you can do to apply for tailored applications for all of them. And you're unlikely to be able to stand out from a pool of other resumes unless you're just way more qualified than the other candidates. So I would focus a lot of time and energy on networking and making connections within your field and with other sort of like-minded professionals. And then you can get access to jobs that aren't posted, right? And you can because a lot of jobs aren't posted. There can be internal hires. There can be positions where they haven't even created the posting yet. And if you can get a referral to the hiring manager before they've even created the posting, in a lot of private sector jobs, they can just hire you. Sometimes in public sector or certain positions, they are required to post it and to advertise, etc. But in many private sector cases, they won't have to post it, right? You could get hired for an internal posting that isn't even posted publicly. So I would focus a lot of your time on networking and making connections, and not just limit yourself to thinking about job postings.
Great. Thanks, Derek. And thank you, Shalene. Dr. Sardar asked a few times, and maybe AJ, you can give a quick answer to this and let people know where to go to start the process. Is there a specific ECA process for PhD degrees obtained in India?
You can definitely get your PhD degree evaluated. As I mentioned earlier, the only thing that we do not evaluate is certificates. I know there are a couple of questions in the chat about that. But yes, we do evaluate PhD. I'm going to quickly drop a link here, which will help understand all the different degrees that we evaluate in a bit.
Great, thanks so much. And where would they go to get started if they want to get their degrees evaluated today or tomorrow?
Oh, yeah, go to our website, wes.org, and you should be able to see get an evaluation button right at the top, at the bottom. And when you click on that, it will ask you for where will you use your evaluation. So you can pick Canada, When you pick Canada, it will give you three options, which is one WES standard application, which is the one where you can pick and choose D by D or C by C, which is valid for lifetime. The other two are IRCC specific, which is ECA for immigration purposes, and that's where it's only valid for 5 years. So make sure you understand which one you need, and then you can proceed with the application from there.
Great, thanks, AJ. And Ophelia asked, they need to wait till they're inside Canada to do the ECA, or could you do the ECA from your home country? Is there any limit that way?
You can do your ECA from anywhere around the world. You can also do your ECA when you are in Canada. If you're applying for express entry application or any other IRCC requirement for immigration, you can apply from literally anywhere till the time you have access to our website, and you can go through the application process online.
Great, thanks so much. Interesting question here from Yasmin, which maybe Derek and Shalene can speak to. What are the most common mistakes that people make throughout the interview process for companies? Maybe Derek, you can go first on this one.
Sure. Yeah. So there's if you're looking for additional resources, there's a good section on this, it's a classic job search book called "What Color Is Your Parachute?" So that has a good section that you can read for some more details on this. So sort of classic common mistakes, and I'm drawing heavily on what color is your parachute here, would be getting defeated or tripped up by like little things that can negatively impact the employer's or the hiring manager's perception of you that you wouldn't think are necessarily like a big deal, but when you're competing against other candidates, they can be a big deal, right? And so things like just like how you're dressed, your hygiene, like your just like overall like sort of like politeness and mannerisms, and the author, I think, in the talks that you're showing up to like fight a tiger and you're getting defeated by like mosquitoes or whatever, right? So I would say do everything you can to control those like small factors that could potentially trip you up. So I would refer to that. And then the other thing would just be I would say talking too long, taking too long to answer questions is a common mistake. So take some time to think about it, how you're going to answer the question, lay out the key points. You can use, like, say, for example, the STAR method for behavioral questions, and position your answer clearly to the point, and then leave it at that.
Great, thanks, Derek. Shalene, any comments?
Yeah.
As well?
And I'll just add, I think it'll be helpful if you can find someone to practice with, right? Having a few rounds of mock interviews to help those nerves so you feel more comfortable answering questions about your background and your experience is also a tactic I would encourage you all to take on.
Great, thanks. And maybe we'll take one more question here before we start wrapping up the webinar. Dauda asks, and I think this will be for AJ, what WES type is good for Canadian immigration?
What WES report?
Yes.
Oh, for Canadian immigration, it's ECA. I can share the link again. ECA is the one that IRCC requires. So I would go with that if you're applying for immigration. But then again, always check on the website of IRCC or whatever immigration process you're planning to apply, because it's always good to have some sort of backup to support that. So I'm going to add the link here. This should give you all the information about it. Again, for physician, pharmacist, and architects, there is a separate note. If you click on the link, it should give you more information on what evaluation you would require.
Great, thanks. And a quick follow-up question from Christopher. Can I use this WES evaluation that I did for IRCC to seek jobs in Canada?
So it depends. You might have to come back to WES to upgrade your ECA to D by D or C by C, depending on what the employer is requiring. But you can use our digital badge that you receive once your evaluation is complete to display on your LinkedIn or on your resume that you have a credential evaluation and it's your home country education is equivalent to Canadian standards. So Again, it depends. Certain cases, yes, it might be useful. And in certain cases, you might have to come back and upgrade your ECA based on the requirement from the employer you're applying to.
Great. Thanks so much, AJ. So I'm going to formally wrap up our Q&A period. I want to give a big thank you to all of our panelists today. We really appreciate your time and value your knowledge and insight. And so I just want to say thank you from our audience and from CanadaVisa. Was really appreciated. I want to say thank you to AJ for your presentation at the beginning as well. Super insightful and helpful to people that are going through the process right now. And of course, thank you to the audience for being really engaged, asking great questions, and taking time out of your day to watch this webinar. A few housekeeping notes before I pass it off to AJ for a final statement. You will receive a copy of this webinar slides and as well a recording of the webinar in your email inboxes tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. And then also keep an eye out for other notifications or articles or information that will come out from WES in the future. There's also some good links in this chat, and you'll have links to WES's website in the webinar follow-up too. Great. So with that being said, I'll hand it off to AJ for a closing statement.
Thanks, Riley. Riley, if you don't mind bringing up the final slide, that would be great. There you go. Awesome. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today for this webinar, and thank you, CanadaVisa, for having us here. We hope you found this informative, and we gave you a lot of practical tools and insight to support your job search. We also have our help section on our website. Please go see any questions you might have, or feel free to reach out to our customer service as well with any questions you might have. If you would like to stay connected and receive more resources and updates for any upcoming events, well, I encourage you to sign up for our newsletter by scanning the QR code you're seeing on the screen. WES Advisor is mostly applicable, which will give you more information on different types of credential evaluation and any of the updates ongoing right now. And once again, thank you. And on behalf of the entire team, thank you for your time and participation, and good luck with your job search.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone in the audience, and I wish everyone a great evening or afternoon, depending on where you are. But thanks.
Thank you.